All right. Welcome to Sunday. Welcome to Live with Rhea, YouTubers Hamfest edition. I'm here in a shack with a key and with lots of keys. keys. And I have a special guest tonight. I'm going to bring him on shortly. But first, a couple reminders. If you're new here, thanks for joining us. This is Rhea Shack Ham Radio, the channel where you learn a lot about ham radio. I have an educational twist on things here. I'm Rhea. My call sign's N2RJ. And, if you're new here, like I said, if you find the content useful, I would appreciate if you subscribe and like. We have a lot of videos coming up. What else can I say? Those of you I met at Hamvention, nice to see you. And one more thing, I have a radio show on shortwave on 5085 on Saturdays. It's on WTWW. You can look at the schedule at WTWW.us. It's 8 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. But, if you can make it because you might be watching another YouTuber. Unfortunately, that's the time the radio station gave me. So, but I also put it up on a podcast platform, right? So anyway, without further ado, let me bring on my special guest for tonight, all the way from Lincoln, Nebraska, not Omaha, okay? Lincoln, Nebraska. He is someone I really, really look up to in terms of his fight for, his advocacy for radio amateurs to build their own equipment. And not only build, but understand, but also have fun in the process. And he's taught me, believe it or not, quite a few things. And I consider him a good friend. He's actually been here in this shack to operate one time. So rare privilege, okay? And he's at conferences all over the country. And, he's also editor of one of the columns, Kit Building, for CQ Magazine. None other than Joe Eisenberg, Kilo Zero, November Echo Bravo, the kit guru, maker of videos, snapper of photos, an all-around good hamfest guy.
Well, thank you. And also, I am the contributing author of the construction techniques chapter in the handbook. And don't forget the 100th anniversary of the ARL handbook, which I had a small hand in also, is coming out this fall. And so, and I've got another assignment for possibly helping on another chapter in the handbook coming up in the 101 edition. So,
yeah, there's a lot of chat going on now about ARRL's. I think, what anniversary of the handbook are we coming up on?
Yeah, this will be the 100th.
Yeah. So, we're looking to make a big splash. I wasn't supposed to say that, were we? Okay. But anyway, good. So yeah, like I said, I'm on shortwave. I actually have something here, a preview of something I'm going to be talking about on the channel. This is a shortwave radio, believe it or not, okay? But this shortwave radio is a little different, right? Not only is it USB powered, lithium battery powered, but it has something called DRM, and it's not digital rights management. It's called Digital Radio Mondial, which is basically digital shortwave radio. And it's made by a Chinese company called, believe it or not, Gospel. Probably no coincidence, since a lot of the shortwave stations are Christian radio stations, and that's what they're on shortwave to do, to preach, But I'm on there to talk radio. I don't get into the religion stuff. But anyway, yeah. So if you are, if you're a shortwave listener, be sure to stay tuned, because I'm going to have this. I'm going to have a couple other shortwave radios talking about, because I started out as an SWL. But tonight we're going to talk about kits, right? And Joe's going to show us some of his, probably not so secrets, because, but Joe likes to share his secrets of kits, and, yep. And I can ask, and Joe will share his secrets. Okay.
All right.
So anyway, yeah.
Well,
so take it away, Joe.
Well, where do we begin? First off, I want to talk about some simple tools that every kit builder should have.
Right.
And of course, a little pair of needle nose right here. There we go. Mm-hmm. The needle nose, and wire strippers. They don't have to be expensive. These are like $2.50 at Harbor Freight. not real
Mhm.
expensive. And these are flush cutters, okay? And everybody says, well, I can't find them like this. Well, these are only about $6 online. And it says Plato on it.
Right.
Pretty easy to find. And I've seen them most good-sized hamfests as well. And they're really a must when you're trimming on a printed circuit board. Now, a soldering station is a must. And you got to have that. But, you know, you can have something this small. And I've built tons of kits with one of these. And
Right.
this is called a TS100. And the TS100 is, for all intents and purposes, has the same functions as a soldering station. This one will keep the temperature correct, plus or minus 2 degrees Celsius. It has grounding for ESD. There's a USB connection to load the default temperatures you want in it. You can turn it on and off and adjust the temperature with these two buttons. And it has a tiny OLED temperature display. And if you don't use it for a while, guess what? It cools itself down. I like this thing because it runs on a small laptop type power supply. I can pack this in my bag when I'm traveling, and it's very light, doesn't take up a lot of space, and yet it gives me all the full control I get from my big soldering station. So the reason there's no brand on it is because there's a zillion people selling their own versions of the TS100.
This probably come out of factory in China or something.
Yeah. And so if you look on Amazon and just put with no dash on it, TS100, you're going to get a whole bunch of different varieties of these in different colors or stuff, but they're all pretty much the same. And it's kind of neat to have when I travel. That's pretty much what I take with me now when I do group kit builds. Solder wick, okay?
Yeah.
I have never built a kit that you haven't made some kind of small mistake or something. And this is great for drinking up solder. All you do is you take your soldering iron, turn it up all the way so that when this thing wicks away, the solder has enough heat to do that, because this also sinks away some of the heat. This is my doctor's prescription for solder. Now, there's a couple of different manufacturers of this. I tell people, you know, the 60-40 solder we all know and love is wonderful for antenna wires, outside connections, heavy duty, things like that. But for all the circuit board stuff I do, I use 6337.
Kester, right?
Yeah, you can get Kester. This is MG Chemicals. You can get it from a couple of different manufacturers. What I look for is a thickness of 031 or 025. And I like to get rosin core, of course, but no clean. And the reason for the no clean is things like this. If you look at the back of the circuit board, if there's any blobs left, they're pretty much clear or gone. So the rosin core no clean does the best job. And I have had really, really good results with it. In fact, I have a customer from work that's an electronics plant, and they have soldering stations, which are Heiko, but they got the good old Kester rosin core no clean 6337 solder. And I say, why do I use that instead of 6040? And the main reason is that's a eutectic solder. And what that means is that it flows and wets better. Okay, so it's not really good for your high-speed wave soldering machines and things like that, but it's great for hand soldering because it has a very, very short plastic state. And what that means is you're much less likely to get a cold solder joint because it cools quickly, it flows through the hole, makes a great connection. Somebody had mentioned silver solder before. Certain connections I do, but most of the time I don't. There are times when it's kind of advisable, like if I'm doing a PL 259 or something like that, and sometimes you get a little solder that flows over the end or something, that silver is going to be a little better than just the solder in making the contact. So for some things, silver solder is good. Other things, it's expensive and not
Mhm.
really needed.
Somebody bought all the solder.
All right. Well, I tell you what, it is worthwhile, and I now can tell you that not only can you get a nice temperature controlled analog temperature dial soldering station for $49 at Harbor Freight, they now sell half-pound rolls of 6337. I
Mm,
just picked one up like 2 days before I went to Dayton, and so I have not had a chance to test it yet, but it says it's rosin core, but it doesn't say no clean. And so chances are it's gonna make a great connection, but you'll see the normal little brown stuff left over from the flux. But
okay.
that's no big deal because in any case, you can use 91% alcohol, which you can buy at your local drugstore, put it on a little cloth or shop cloth or something and wipe
Yeah.
it off the circuit board. So a lot of people say Harbor Freight. Well, yeah, and I was surprised that they actually have 6337 solder now. Pretty amazing.
They're
And
actually getting pretty good, Harbor Freight. They're not, they're no longer the junk tool store.
no, and that's what impressed me with this soldering station. It's called a Schneider soldering station.
I have
And
one.
so it's not like one of your $6 pencil irons or something that's
Mhm.
not regulated and not grounded or anything. This thing is the solder station they have is ESD safe, as well as very well controlled. You can get extra tips for it. I was impressed when I first bought it and have taken it on several group kit builds and let people use it. And they're just like, "Where do you get this soldering station?" Well, you get it at Harbor Freight, and they're impressed. Um, we can talk about, let's see what else. Tuning tools. Something like this costs about $5 or so,
Right.
and it's ceramic. And so I can make adjustments and so forth without using a metal tip screwdriver. This is a must to have. You don't want to use metal screwdrivers.
For
But
IF
if you,
transformers and such like that. And
yeah, but of course, you can have a screwdriver like this, the good
yeah,
old K0NEB
yes,
screwdriver. It
I
has
have
the
mine.
Phillips and the
That's
straight
cool.
end.
Yeah.
Um, or sometimes you can find just the regular straight ones that people are giving away.
Mhm.
Really worthwhile. One of the things I like to preach is to have pre assorted, standardized parts.
Right.
And the reason for this is when you're building the kit, what you want to do is you want to have um, a variety of parts available because sometimes a kit might be missing something like a 10K resistor or something like that. Or sometimes the kit maker will say, if you exchange the 100 microfarad capacitor for a 470 microfarad capacitor, it's going to get rid of the hum or something else
Hmm.
that's in it. So you can get on Amazon and you can tell it you're looking for like electrolytic capacitor assortment, and you can find things like this, which are
Hmm.
anywhere from 12 to 20 bucks. A lot of them are about 15 bucks, and look at all the parts that you get, and they are pre-assorted, and there's a map of which part is in which bin,
Hmm.
and it's got its own container, so you don't need to sort them out. This one I think when I bought it, it was like 13 bucks. And if you look in this thing, look what's in there. There's a
Capacitors.
zillion different capacitors,
Yeah.
and it's mapped out as to what's in it. And if you order one or two capacitors, you're going to spend that much just for shipping. This one here is different styles of push buttons. Okay.
Right.
A lot of kits, you might break one of those things or melt it or something. Well, guess what? I've got extra push buttons. This is just a smattering of the assortments that I have here. I have the little ceramic discs. I have um, the multi-layers and all that. Now, if you go to your stores like Cabela's or Bass Pro or something like that, you're going to find these little Plano cases. Okay. It's got 5
Yes.
trays in it. Well, guess what? On a small kit, this will suffice to sort your parts out and give you something secure, snap it shut so that the kids, cats, or otherwise
Yeah.
are not going to lose your parts.
I
And so,
bought some stuff like that from like Home Depot. It was either Lowe's or Home Depot. They had like these big assortment trays,
yeah,
clear tops.
yeah, and they're really worthwhile. And you can get them in bigger sizes too, and you can get them that have movable partitions. They have them at Walmart,
Right.
Michael's, Hobby Lobby, places like that. There's a particular Plano tackle box that I like, and the tackle box lets you pull out one of 4 trays, and then it's got a top compartment as well, so you can put your partially completed circuit boards into them.
Mm.
And I can have 4 kits in play at one time. Let's see, where do we go from here? Of course, everybody wants to know what kits I brought home from Dayton.
Right.
And
And
there's
we're
some,
going to talk a little bit about Dayton too.
you
You're
bet.
going to show us some of the photos you took.
Yeah, I'll show some of the photos.
Uh-huh.
This particular one is a single lever paddle. They also have a dual lever paddle kit. This kit was, I think, $20 or $25 from qrpbuilder.com, which is
Wow.
a new site. And the circuit board parts it takes to make this thing are kind of a snap off from a main kind of a frame there. You unsnap the pieces, and then you use like an emery board to smooth them off and then solder them together, and it makes a paddle. This is a single lever version, and this is designed to work with a KX2 or a KX3 and screw right into the front, and it's got the connector so you can plug right into the front of the radio. But if you've decided excuse me, to make that hold on,
Yeah, sure.
to make that paddle, and you want to use it with something other than a KX2 or a KX3, well, guess what? They make a paddle adapter kit for $15.
Wow.
And once again, the pieces snap off, and you form a kind of a mounting piece for that. And it's got connection places to either solder a wire or a jack so that you can plug in a simple stereo audio cable and plug it into your rig and plug it into this little thing. And now you can take with 2 screws, you take that paddle off of your KX2 or KX3 and you put it on this base, and now you have a neat little paddle. Also, they had this little kit that they came out with. It is a PTO. Now we're getting into kind of some more experimental stuff. A PTO.
Is that like power takeoff like you'd find on a tractor?
Well, you know, we have a few tractors around here, and no,
I know.
it's not. But I tell you what this is it has a slug basically that goes in and out of a coil. And when you do that, of course, it's changing the inductance. And so just like a variable capacitor, it will vary the frequency of this oscillator. And this is designed to add a VFO to a crystal controlled radios. For instance, one of these, okay, a cricket or things like that. So then you can actually make a VFO for it with one of these. So sometimes one person's kit can be used with another person's kit.
Right.
So we'll show a couple of these real quick. The Cricket is a real fun kit, and it's not that difficult to put together. I would suggest having some help if this is your first time building a kit, though. What it is it runs on a 9-volt battery, and you can see the 2 tabs where my fingers are there for the 9-volt battery. And it has a straight key. And what's amazing is that all you do is you plug in the headset, the 9-volt battery, the crystal, and the antenna, and now you have a working CW transceiver. Everybody says, well, those Pixies that looks kind of similar to that, well, they don't hear real well at all. Well, this does. This one, the 80 meter version of it, I put the right crystal in it, and I was able to hear the W1AW CW practice. It wasn't that strong until I hooked my KX2 to the same antenna and found out it's only S1 or S2 that night, and this was picking it up just fine. This is the 40 meter version. You can see there's a place where the crystal plugs in, so you can have different crystals.
Where are the toroids?
That's the magic of this. Okay, you don't have to wind toroids, because guess what?
Yeah.
They're spiral wound on the board. And that's the idea of David Kripe, NM0S from Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Yeah.
And his job is, he is a Collins radio engineer. Wow. And he came up with the idea of using spiral wound coils on the board, so you don't have to wind toroids. And, you know, it works really, really well. Now, of course, you can tell the toroids in this one are a little smaller because this is 20 meters.
Right.
Okay. And the conversion of the kit from the 40 meter version to the 20 meter version was a joint effort of NM0S and NV5F, Virginia from Texas. And she came up with the cute cricket logo that's in the middle of the board as well.
Wait, Virginia. Oh, yeah. NV5F, right?
Yes.
Flanagan, right? Is her name?
Smith.
Oh, Virginia Smith. Oh, yeah. I know her. Right. I know. She draws cartoons and stuff.
Yeah. Anyway, so you can see the key is part of the kit. And really fun to put together. It also comes with a different arm that goes there in place of the key and has a jack. And the jack would be used to hook up a keyer or some other CW keying source like a keyboard. Another 4-state kit that just came out at Dayton is not even on the website yet, I don't think, but guess who wrote the manual? It's the first time I've done this. I wrote the manual for assembling this. Now, the QRP paddle kit we were just talking about is just that, and it comes from qrpbuilder.com. This comes from 4sqrp.com, like the crickets, and this is a surface mount dummy load kit. And everybody says, oh, no, I can't do surface mount. Well, guess what? You can do these, because these surface mount resistors are 1/4 of an inch across. And so there's 2 different methods, and I wrote the manual on this, and I teach both methods in the manual. One is to put a small dab of solder on one of the 2 pads, and then I take a tweezers and I bring the chip resistor up close to it. I heat up the pad, slide it over, and then let it cool. And then I solder the other pad, and then I go back to the original and add or subtract solder so they match and they look good. The other is to take solder paste.
Right.
And the solder paste, you heat with a heat gun, and it does magic. I mean, it's amazing. It even straightens the resistors for you. And I could do a whole show on how to do that method. And then there's a
1500 watt heat gun, or is it, because I use like some of these craft tools from like Joanne or wherever.
Yeah, that's what you do. You can get it at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. They're called embossing heat tools that are used for like scrapbooking, embossing. And those will heat it up enough. You just hold it about 2 inches away so you don't blow the part away, and heats it up. And pretty soon it'll start looking shiny. And then all of a sudden it turns silvery. And then the magic happens, and the surface tension of the solder and flux combination straightens the parts out. And it has 4 LEDs. As you can tell, it's telling you the power out, 5 watts, 2 watts, 1 watt, and half a watt. And so it lights them up like a bar graph. So you can tell how much power your QRP kit is putting out. And so I use that to measure these kits. And this just came out.
I got a question about that one. If is it like, so I know, like, if you put like resistors in series with LEDs, and you attempt to use that as a bar graph, some of them will light dimly, and then some of them will light brighter.
Yeah.
Is this like that, or is this where it has like some sort of circuitry to
No,
step it?
it just gets it reaches the threshold of it lighting up, but
Okay.
as you reach the threshold of that power level,
Mhm.
it starts out dim and gets brighter. So you
Okay.
might have two bright ones and one dim one or something like
Right.
that.
Right.
And that's how you can tell roughly how much power it's putting out.
Okay.
Here's another 4-state kit. Now, this is really neat for beginners, and I'll tell you why. Because it's an AM broadcast receiver. And the fun of this kit is uh, it does not involve through hole parts.
Hmm.
Okay. The front panel on the back is where all the parts soldered to. They solder to pads. So all we do is put some solder on the pad, put the part down on it, holding them with needle nose or something like that so you don't burn yourself. And you heat up the pad, and guess what? It's soldered. Okay. And then you take your trimmers, your flush cutters, and you can trim the part off. Now, what's neat about it is that if you mess up, you don't need solder wick. You don't need any kind of desoldering tools, because all you do is put the tip on the pad, you heat up the solder, and using the tip, you just pick the lead up, and guess what? You can desolder it and reuse the solder on all the different pads. So you can lift the part off and replace it. Um, this is a very simple AM broadcast receiver. I don't know if
An 0-2 fastball right in there. I mean,
Yeah.
right
That's fine.
in there. And I mean,
Okay.
yeah, you want to.
so you can hear a local AM radio station, a baseball game. I only get one complaint about this kit when people do that with their kids. They love it. The
Mhm.
kids love it because it's so easy to do and very hard to mess up. Is the programming in some of the AM radio stations in certain markets. Some of it
Oh,
can,
you mean like the actual content of the programs?
yeah,
Okay.
certain talk shows and sports talk. I was surprised at some of the language used on local sports talk stations. I thought,
Oh yeah.
okay. So, but
Locker
it's
room
AM
talk.
radio. Yes, definitely locker room talk. This is another kit. For those of you on Facebook, you probably saw Ray Novak pulled one of these
Yeah.
out of his magic trunk.
And everybody here, I think, knows Adam very well. So Adam is K6ARK. He does the soda stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to do my first soda activation in April with Gary and Martha from Leavenworth, Kansas. We were in the Branson area for Ozarkon, and he recommended one of these to make an antenna. And so I'm going to put one together and write about it. It's a very compact, simple end-fed wire antenna, and you can make it for different bands and so forth. And it doesn't come with a winder. So guess what? I printed one with the 3D printer. And
Ooh.
so it actually is designed for a much bigger antenna than that. So I'm going to probably shrink this down
Mhm.
in the slicer and just make a compact version of that.
Hmm.
But these are very inexpensive and pretty easy to put together. And
Yeah.
yes, you are going to wind a toroid, but it's a
Or
learning experience.
as the smoking ape says, toroid. Toroid.
Yeah, it's just like Toe Mater.
Yeah.
Larry the Cable Guy, who lives about 5 miles from me. All right. So
Yeah.
we've talked about the kits. We can talk a little bit about any questions that people have about kit building, and then we're going to maybe look at a few of the photos I took at the Hamvention.
Yeah, guys. So if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the chat. And Joe loves to answer questions. He I believe you did a forum this year at Dayton, did you or not?
Yes. Yeah, we had pretty good attendance at it. And the fun part was I passed out sheets of lists of booths that had some of this stuff and where to get it.
Mm.
And one of the booths was directly outside the door of the 4-H building where room 4 is. And he did
Right.
a lot of business right after my talk, which was pretty cool. But I have found that every year I go to Dayton or other major hamfests, some new kits show up, and it's always a lot of fun because kit building is definitely not dead. Everybody thought when Heath Kit went away in the early 90s, it was gone. And then all of a sudden, places like Ramsey came up with kits, and Tentec came up with kits, and Elenco, and all these other Elecraft, definitely. And they still make not only some of their mini kits, but they still make the K2 kit, and the receiver is still way up there in the ratings of receiver performance, and it's a kit radio.
I get, I still have a few kits. I actually built the soft rock kits, that the software defined radios, the soft rock, but those you had to wind the toroids. Okay.
Yeah,
toroids.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And somebody said
mount.
QRP builder looks like QRP guys. That's because one of the guys involved with both is the same. And he was also involved in design of some of the kits and cases for QRPkits.com as well. And that's Ken Locasal, and I can't remember his call sign. I think WA4MNT.
Yeah.
And he has been involved in designing as well as making cases for a lot of kits. One of the philosophies that they're testing is posting STL files so you can print your own cases. And that's what I've been doing. And it's really worthwhile. And I help with sometimes trying to design cases for the 4-state kits and some kits that don't have a case. Like I'm going to try and come up with one for this. There are just a number of things you can do, not only building kits, but having a 3D printer. Now, here's another kit that's really good for clubs. All right. And it fits in an Altoids tin, and lots of kits do. Okay. And this is a Morse code practice kit, and it has a jack on the left that you can plug a regular straight key into. And all you do is like this. I don't know if the mic is going to pick that up.
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay. And so you can practice. And like I said, you open it up and there's a hole in the side there that I made, and you can plug a key into there. This kit sells for about $10. And so it's really good for a beginner.
Yeah.
The 4-state QRP group also has one called the SSCPO, which has a key built into it as well. And it's a 2-transistor oscillator. Very simple. You got 2 identical transistors and a couple of identical resistors and capacitors, and it makes a great kit. And so those you can get at 4sqrp.com. And so what I'm going to do is after we're done, I'll see if I can get you a list of the sources of some of this stuff, and you can post that in the description of the final file.
So North Jersey Ham Radio is saying, K2TJK, I've been starting to eat Altoids just for the tin.
Well, I'll tell you what, when I was at Disney in Florida, I bought this just for the tin.
And
wow. So
wow.
a 50th anniversary one. And so this tin is going to become the container for a Fox 3 20-meter CW transceiver kit, which is a Kanga kit. And so that's going to go in the Walt Disney tin, which happens to be about the same size.
So is that Altoids at Walt Disney, or what are they selling?
No, it's their own. In fact, it's still got the mints in it. They look like Mickey Mouse and things like that. And so I thought, well, after I'm done munching on these, this is going to be a kit. Somebody will look at that and say, oh, it's just a Mickey Mouse mint tin. But it's also a 20-meter transceiver.
So I want to, as you remember this, right?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah. So those of you who don't know, Joe actually gave a presentation at our local conference here, Ham Radio University, in New York City, Long Island, and he gave one about kit building. Now, Joe, you mentioned Snyder. Do you still have this one? Because I bought this one on your
Yes, I do.
advice.
Yes, I do. And that's a butane powered soldering iron. Everybody says, so what do we need that for? Well, I tell you what, when you go outdoors, especially here, even in the wintertime, once that thing gets started and you get wind blowing on it, it only makes it hotter, which is great. And it gets enough heat on it that you can solder things like copper weld antenna wire and stuff like that, multi-strand 14 gauge or 12 gauge antenna wire or so forth. When you wrap it around the insulator and stuff, you can use that and it will deliver enough heat that you can get the solder to flow on the antenna wire. So it's really great to use, especially outdoors. And for if you turn the heat way down, you can use it for portable repairs.
So let me tell you what I use this for. Okay. You saw the tower, right?
Yeah.
When you climb up the tower, you're not climbing that thing with an extension cord. Okay. You climb with one of these and then you flick it on, right? And then you're able to, how do you do this?
You got to hold that one little button and then there you go. And there it goes.
Yeah. It gets warm. Yeah. Crazy. I love these things, I really do. And since New Jersey just legalized cannabis, it's been kind of odd, right? I don't smoke. I don't smoke anything. I don't even smoke cigarettes, man. Okay. But those of you who listen to Jamaican dancehall music will get the reference. But no, you go into the smoke shops to buy the butane fuel. My God, it's like they play the whole dancehall playlist now because New Jersey legalized weed, and everybody apparently is selling weed accessories, But
and so you get the butane canisters there, or like here at Walgreens or Walmart, places like that. Now here's another kit I want to talk about. This is the Pentec TR35. In fact, somebody just mentioned it. I see that. This is a roughly 5 watt or a little more than that CW transceiver. And this is digitally synthesized. It's a DDS. There are no menus on it. It's got switches and knobs for everything, like RF gain for the receiver, transmit power, things like that, volume control and so forth, in keyer speed. And it's got a multi-speed VFO and so forth. And this is 4 bands. This is 40, 30, 20, and 17 meters. And I took this up on the mountain when we did the summits on the air, and it really worked well. Now, what I do is I kind of make a go kit for these little kits. And by the way, that's available at wa3rnc.com. I keep a little notepad in my little go kits. Why? Because you want to log and you want to copy the CW. Okay, so inside the go kit, I have a pen, I have a power cord, I have adapters, I have earbuds, and you inspired me by sending me one of these. And I have a key that is 3D printed, and I made 35 kits with all the parts and everything and the cord and everything for the Youth on the Air camp that's going to be at the VOA in Westchester, Ohio next month. And so each of the students there will be able to take home a 3D printed key that they assembled themselves. So like I said, you can make a go kit out of these things. I took this little case with me. I didn't take a battery because the people with me had the batteries. So they said, just bring the little box and plug in. And so that's what I did. There's another one over here I'm going to fumble with. Okay. And these cases, you can get them at Harbor Freight. Once again, they're kind of a clone. There's a CW transceiver, earbuds, the key. There's some RF adapters and all sorts of stuff, and power cord. And this is the QCX Mini CW transceiver. And this one is a 2-line display, and the bottom line actually copies the CW. And surprisingly, with the case and everything, this kit still sells for, I think, $80 or $90. And so it's not that expensive. It has a lot of surface mount parts in it, but those are already done for you. And that's a characteristic of the other kit I just showed. The Pentec, you know, most kit builders say, well, one of the least desirable things in building a kit is winding the toroids. Okay, well, the Pentec kit, all the toroids are wound and stripped and tinned for you and pre-tuned. And it's pretty amazing. In fact, the Pentec kit, the parts come in clear plastic sleeves that are heat sealed and divided. And so you take your scissors and you open up each little pouch, take the parts out and do that section of the kit. And so instead of having to use those snap shut parts containers, they're already sealed for you and you just use them as you go. Somebody says they're looking at wood and graphite. I do have a bit. I do have a bit of wood, and this year I will receive my 5th sweepstakes plaque. So it's not easy, I'll tell you what. But being in Nebraska helps because everybody needs Nebraska. Somebody wanted to know how well the kit copies CW. Copies it very well, actually, as long as the signal is good. The QCX Mini, the little pocket-sized one, that one has like a 300 hertz filter in it, very tight, and so it's pretty good for filtering and copying it. The cup of pencils. Oh, somebody wants that. This was a gift from WTWW, and look at that. They did that, and just really nice people. And so I have those, and those pencils are for what? Copying CW.
So that's the station I have my show on.
I also make these. I make these.
I got one too.
The 3D printer.
Have you seen this award?
No, I have not. That's very good. 160.
Yeah. So what this is you know, the transatlantic test, right? When the ARRL and the RSGB ran 2 special event stations to commemorate 100 years of the transatlantic tests, right? When people said that, you know, you can't use shortwave to, you know, we give those hams those useless frequencies, let them play up in the useless playground and let the serious big ships, you know, get all the good frequencies, okay? Well, ham said, well, you know what? Might as well. We'll try. We're hams. They actually, they tested and were able to send and receive signals from across the pond. So they held a QSO party. They gave the first person who made contact with both stations I don't know how to pronounce it, a quaich, which is a traditional Scottish drinking cup. But this one, you know, I just got a certificate. This was, you print this online, you know, you make contact with the 2 stations and you print this online. Reason I mention this is that the transmitter that was in use back then was a master oscillator power amplifier, right? I think they called it a MOPA or MAPA or something like that. Have you seen any of that in, you know, not necessarily tube type, but you know, solid state in modern kits?
I really haven't per se. Well, I'll take that back. We had a competition at 4 Days in May. Okay. And the competition was to take 2 2N2222 transistors and see how much power it could sustain before it smoked. And turning up the voltage to it and seeing how well it could. And people had all sorts of different design ideas. And I think the guy that won did an MOPA type thing where he, instead of having one as the oscillator and one as the amplifier, he had them in parallel as an oscillator that is an amplifier. And so I have seen that in somebody's design, but most kits still commonly separate that. And there's a reason, and that is more for stability and so forth.
Right. Yeah, it was it's really interesting. It was how should I put it? It's interesting to see the designs back then, because back then it was unstable. Okay. Like and then even when they built a replica, they put it on air and that thing was going, up and down the band. It even went out of band a little bit, then came back in. So yeah, so modern designs I agree, they're a lot better. We've come a long way.
Yeah, and somebody mentioned Hans from QRP Labs. He was at Dayton and he was selling some of those kits, including the minis. And I have on order from him the QDX kit, which is a 4-band digital mode transceiver. And it has the sound card and everything built into it. And so once completed, you just hook the USB cable to your computer, and it looks like, I think, like a Kenwood 480 or something like that. And it has the separate sound card on the different virtual COM port. And you feed it with one little USB cable. So what I'm going to look for is maybe a small Windows tablet, and then I'll be able to do FT8 on Parks or Soda or whatever with a little kit radio like that. But it was interesting to see some of the stuff at the 4 days in May. They had a homebrew contest, and the winner was a Paraset built by W0MNA from Kansas. And it was a 3-tube design. He took the exact schematic from World War II and reproduced it, and absolutely did an incredible job. And I will be featuring that in, I think it's going to be my July column. Not sure, but I think it'll be in my July column in CQ magazine.
Right.
I also submitted a photo essay for that issue, which will go to print for July, of all sorts of neat things that I saw at Hamvention.
Nice. So I want to show you this too. This is a circuit board I had made for a VHF amplifier design by Bob Larkin, W7PUA. Right. I was looking for some little amplifier to step up the output for my Flex radio. So I had a circuit board made, and you would not believe how cheap it was to get these boards now. And the point is, a lot of people building kits and such now, you don't have to deal with etching or anything like that, or you don't have to deal with the old methods. I remember Far Circuits used to have a bunch of circuit boards on sale at Dayton out in the flea when it was at Hara.
Yeah, he used to have his own tent. And
yes,
I've have several of his boards I got years ago. And now you can submit a Gerber file and they make the board.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and some of them even give you free CAD software. I think Express PCB was one of them. I can't remember which one of the other Chinese PCB manufacturers does that. But yeah, it's amazing stuff. Yeah, I have a few of Far Circuits boards. I have the original, believe it or not, the original BitX, right? BITX from Ashar. And Ashar Farhan. Ashar came on this channel, a while back, early on. And I think what would be the ultimate duo would be if you and Ashar come on and we have a roundtable discussion on kits.
It would be good. Now, I have one of the earlier BitX, and we put it in a 3D printed case. And then I have the version 6 in the metal case, and the version 6 you can put together without doing any soldering at all. And in fact, the version 6 took me 45 minutes to assemble, and the only reason it took that long was because I spent time taking notes and taking photos of it step by step so I could make an article about it. And it's a good beginner's kit where you don't have to do any soldering, but you have to do some careful assembly, and you put it together and put it in the case and calibrate it, and you have a neat little low power all band transceiver. There are so many low-cost entry points to amateur radio that are now possible by kits like this. That's like $35 for one of these. And so there's really not many excuses. And as we may have discussed earlier, I've been making these tools from the 3D printer, and you put your IC. I don't know if I have one here. I do. I have an IC. And so I put it in there because the legs are bowed out on these things. And so you put it in there and you squeeze it, and guess what? It straightens the pins, and now you can put it in the circuit board. This is made with the 3D printer. And you flip it over and it does the wider ICs. It's not my design. All I did was modify it a bit to strengthen it a little and adjust it for my printer, and it works wonderful.
So I want to show you something here. I was recently put onto this website by ham radio, because I'm a part of the Indian diaspora, and I actually a lot of Indian hams talk to me about stuff. And this one, if you look here, have you seen these kits? These are like
Yes, I have one. I have not assembled yet, but I do have it, and very low cost. And but you're going to have to do a lot of toroids and things like that. But he's got a lot of really cool low cost kits. Just take the time to put it together.
This is really good stuff. Another place I like is 5dash.com. 5dash, I believe they're still in business. This was this guy Tony Parks, right? And he has the soft rock. I built a number of these, and these are really awesome stuff. $48.
I think he's in Indiana, and I have seen the soft rock. I have not put one together. If you're going to wind toroids, these are pretty small in these kits, but it's an excellent SDR receiver. There is a transceiver kit, a couple of them, but a lot of these are receivers, and they use the audio inputs to the computer sound card to make the connection. And it's amazing the performance you get out of these. It has a very good front end on it.
I built like, this was my first foray into SDRs, and I still have some of the kits that are unbuilt, right? And I'm just waiting on the perfect opportunity to build them on time, which is never you never have that. But this was the toroids are no joke. I mean, these things are so small. You have to basically like threading. It's like sewing. You thread a needle, right? And you thread a needle, and it's just crazy. But the performance, like you said, is mind blowing. And I actually used the Soft Rock RX-TX 3040 for PSK31, because this was before FT8, right? And they used to work really well for that and CW. So
a lot of people have used them for pan adapters,
right?
By taking an IF signal out and feeding it into one of those as well. There's all sorts of uses, and I was just impressed that an SDR would have the kind of performance that those do. But these are pretty much band specific. They're not trying to cover all of HF, VHF, and UHF and microwave or whatever all on one stick. These are band specific, and because of that, they have a much higher performance as an SDR.
Some of these actually had like selectable bands, but you didn't get like the whole range. You got at most 192 kilohertz due to the limitation of the sound card. So anyway, all right. So shifting gears a little bit, you mentioned you were at Dayton.
Yes.
I drove to Dayton in my Tesla, and you drove in your Prius, didn't you?
Yes. You didn't use any gas. I used less than $70 worth to get the 800 miles from Lincoln, Nebraska to Dayton, and I did not charge up on the way to get the extra 20 miles free on the battery. I went straight through on the gas, and I got 57 on the first tank, and then 62 on the second, which really amazed me. But then when I thought about it, there was about a 15-20 mile an hour west wind pushing me, which actually makes a big difference when you're talking about an electric or a low powered gas vehicle like this. The fuel efficiency is affected by the wind. And so because I wasn't fighting it, it did real well. Coming home, it did pretty much the same. It was about 60 or so to the gallon on my first. And then my second tank was all the way into Iowa. I got all the way from Dayton to Iowa, and then filled it again and made it the rest of the way home, and back and forth to Omaha a couple times and things like that on that same tank. So it was worthwhile to drive this time instead of flying, because the extra money I saved, I was able to spend on things like kits and a new key and things like that.
For me, it wasn't so much about the money. It was more about the convenience, because a lot of people encountered flight delays and flight cancellations. They got home after me, right? And then, I drove back. I got fuel economy, efficiency wise, I got 250 watt hours per mile, which is good. Normally I get like 300, but the stretch of highway is always good. You could just put it in autopilot and just cruise. But so you have some photos to show us. Why don't you show us the photos?
Well, what I'm going to do here is we're going to see if we can make this work. And we'll find, oops, it's not there. So hold on a minute. I know why. I think I've figured it out. You have to take it out of the tray for it to find it.
Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link, because Joe has this whole thing set to music. Okay. And his presentation is epic. I mean, Joe is always good with these. And I remember even going back to Destination Dayton, where he had Steve Mendelson and that guy from the FCC on. That was classically hilarious.
That was a real fun video to put together.
Yeah, I'm telling you. The reunion.
Yeah. So let's see if this comes up. And I'm hearing the music, but you won't. We did that to make sure that we don't have a copyright issue.
Yeah.
But you can see the effect of the pandemic at home. And I play the song Only Time by Enya in making this show.
Right.
And you can see the empty shelves and the mask signs and things. And then you're reminded that it was a very cold winter, that everybody was stuck home at the very beginning of the pandemic. And I took that picture as well. And of course, we saw the dreaded cancellations. And so this goes on into my face shield project, where I made over 300 face shields for our local first responders using a 3D printer. And I knew very little about the printer because I had just gotten it.
Right.
And I learned about everything there is to learn about fixing and keeping it going. And so, of course, we had vaccination at our local arena here. And you can see everybody getting their first round of shots. And once again, we were confronted with the fact that even though we had our first and second doses of shots, they did cancel Hamvention. And so, so then we go to You Make My Dreams Come True. And here we are. And the sign says we're going to Xenia. And I had to do this to show that I actually drove all the way myself
to Waffle House.
And and I do the setup shots and so forth, and it's a lot of fun.
Yesu
And
came in a big crate, didn't they?
yeah, Yesu had the big crates,
Yeah.
and you can see people putting together antennas for display and so forth.
Right.
And there is Hans at 4 Days in May selling kits. And there's some stuff at 4 Days in May where people were showing new SDRs, people getting hats and t-shirts and stuff made, and amplifiers and so forth.
Wow. MFJ.
And the fun of making this slideshow was I could not decide how could I get a lot of people in there, because there were so many people that over these 3 years between the hamfest, they said, is there any way I can be in one of your shows sometime? And I said, sure, I'll figure out a way. And so I kept thinking, how am I going to do this? And I hearkened back to my slideshow that I made in 2014. And the one in 2014 was the ZZ Top song, Sharp Dressed Man.
Right.
And so it had this hand gesture that was used several times in the MTV video. And so I had people mimic that. And there's Ted
Randall.
I had people mimic the hand gesture, and that became part of the ZZ Top show. Yeah. Well, I even got the captain of the airplane to do it when we were boarding. And so it was fun putting together that one. You can see in this, you saw earlier that I was in the talk-in, and Elizabeth was the chair of the talk-in.
Hey, I know her.
Yeah. This is our director as well. Yeah. And so I tried to show everything like I normally do in this 3-minute song, but it wasn't long enough. And so I thought, what kind of a song could I use that people could make some kind of gesture or motion? Right. And I came up with Staying Alive, because Staying Alive is the theme that I thought was most appropriate for Hamvention.
Right.
And so, yes, I show some of the fun stuff in the flea market. And of course, I ended with the prize drawing, and then the surprise hits, because the music fades and you think, oh, Joe ends with the prize drawings. But guess what? We're staying alive. And so we get people doing the disco thing, and we get lots of people, lots of close friends of mine are in this slideshow. Yeah. And it was just a lot of fun to put this together. There was, I think, about 1,100 photos that I shot to do this.
Wow.
And it's a new camera, by the way.
You ran out of film, didn't you?
It's I use a Sony full frame mirrorless now. And so the sharpness of the photos is much better in low light than I used to have. And so I was able to really produce a pretty good show under the low lighting.
Yeah. And you have all the ARRL and DRC.
And yes, Arnie, you were in it.
There's Carol.
Actually, one of the,
Manna.
one of the trivia things is there are 6 Nebraskans in the slideshow, and there's one of them.
Yep, there's Art.
There are 6 people from Nebraska in the slideshow, and
Gordo.
A lot of people don't realize that, but that's half of the fun.
Nice. Yeah, I'm in there. I did not see, and I missed it when I watched it the first time. I didn't realize I was there with Art and David Minster, so that's pretty cool. Huntsville Hamfest, N4BCD is there. I see.
There's 2 more Nebraskans, including our section manager, by the way.
Yeah, and who are these people?
They're from Michigan.
Okay. Hey, there is the guy
There's
who
Chip.
beat text messaging. Luso. They didn't bring a Tower Luso this time.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
And there's Ole Miss.
Right. I know Ole Miss very well. There's me again, ARRL.org. And then what else? Bouvet, Adrian, and those guys. Yeah.
Yeah, the guys that went to the island. By the way, I contributed 12 of my screwdrivers to the Bovey expedition, and they were
Nice.
taken to Norway last month, and
Wow.
they are packed and ready to go from Norway to the island.
Very nice. So, yeah. So I link this slideshow. If anybody wants to watch the whole thing with music, because it's very nice with music. Unfortunately, YouTube is gonna ding me if I play it with the precious copyrighted music. But yeah, if you want to see it, it's on Joe's channel. It's really a lot of fun. So anyway, I don't know how much more time you have, Joe, but I guess we could probably start to wrap it up.
Yep. And to everybody, make sure that you find a kit that matches your skill level. Find something real simple for a beginner's kit. If you want to start in surface mount stuff, this is a really good start. And make sure you have the right solder and the right tools. And I will be doing kit building seminars again also in Huntsville.
Yeah.
And so if you go to Huntsville, I will be doing something. I don't know for sure if it's going to be a live build or a seminar at Ham Exposition. And I will also be the banquet speaker. So those of you in the Hudson division and New England division, I will be coming your way. And just like you, I'm going to be going from y'all down in Alabama and change my accent to Boston and park the car. So
park the car, and you had to charter from the harbor.
Yeah. And, that'll be quite an adjustment for somebody from Nebraska. So that's going to be interesting. But I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm really, really looking forward to coming to both the Huntsville Hamfest and the Northeast Ham Exposition. And thank you, folks, for the wonderful invitation to come speak this August.
Well, Joe, thank you as always. I know you're always a great, a treasure in ham radio to have around in terms of the knowledge you bring. Oops, I didn't mean to play that yet. Okay, the knowledge you bring for ham radio, kit building and the advocacy of being able to build our own equipment, because this is the serious message I'm telling you guys. Okay. Kit building is more than just fun, right? The true part of ham radio, I always tell people, is being a radio MacGyver. You're not an appliance operator, although it's okay to be an appliance operator, right? It's okay to be just somebody who uses commercially built equipment. But I encourage people to learn how your radio works and try to build something, right? Even if it's something simple like the dummy load. Try to build something, right? And so anyway, K5YVY, I don't know. Did you have some K5YVY? But anyway, peace and 73s, everybody. I'll see you around. Bye-bye. And I'll play the outro.